Welcome to Node Mode, the NFT podcast on digital art, where I talk with artists, collectors, and reasonably intelligent people about all things NFTs. As always, nothing in the video is financial advice. We're definitely not financial advisors, and the NFT space is risky, so always do your own research. Welcome back. I just barely did an episode about 10 minutes ago, and I'm excited to be back. Right now, I have one of what I would call like the good guys in the crypto space. The legendary OG trader, LedgerStatus, world-renowned and host of maybe the most sporadic podcast of all time, Up Only. Ledger, welcome to the show. How's it going, man?
Thanks for having me. Sporadic is a good word. And also, I think you called me, or I'm amongst your reasonably intelligent. I felt optimistic. Most days I feel like an idiot. So I'm thankful that you've got me on here today.
Oh no, it's awesome to have you. We gotta get some of the dirt first. Let's get this dirt out of the way from Up Only. Like, how come you do 6 episodes a year? Like, how come we don't get more? When are we gonna get like the weekly Up Only podcast? You know what I mean?
I don't know if you want that because I think it requires a certain level of Kobe attention and stuff going on in the ecosystem where we get excited enough to hop on air. And last time that happened, FTX was blowing up and we were just live streaming the destruction of our industry. So we need it on the euphoric side if we're gonna ask for that, because if it's more down only type bad industry stuff, I don't think you want Up Only to come on.
It's a good point. You guys do have like a pretty good curse going where like the market dumps or bad things happen. And you also have maybe the highest ratio of like guests that became like sort of criminals, like also after. How does it feel? How does that feel?
Not great sometimes. It wasn't intended. It just, honestly, most of the guests that we brought on were people that people were like, hey, you got to have this person because they're saying big outlandish things or they're doing big outlandish things. And it turned out this last time around, like, big and outlandish oftentimes resulted in not so healthy. So that ended up being the case. Now I think we're batting, sub 500 on criminals.
yeah.
I don't want to know the actual batting average.
Yeah, I mean, it's higher than we would have ever dreamed or wished that it ever would have been, and unfortunately, but also it just highlights how insane our industry has been. That's for sure. But okay, so I want to get to know you a little bit. I like to ask people this question when I start. I pick a random year and see what you were doing that year. So we're gonna go back to 2012. What were you doing in 2012?
2012, I was working in the web industry. I was, I guess, in my second full-time year of doing web stuff as a career, which was a career change for me from engineering. So I did engineering in school. So I was honestly kind of hitting my stride as like just a run-of-the-mill web developer, learning stuff, working on a whole bunch of client projects and kind of getting my hands dirty. And spending a lot of time like learning, code level stuff online. And, at the time, I don't know I guess people still do, but like Hacker News was probably one of my primary news sources. And lo and behold, that year Bitcoin was on Hacker News quite a lot. So I actually knew about it back then. Unfortunately, I didn't invest in it. So I just, saw it, did nothing, didn't think it was investable. But I mean, it wasn't a part of my life per se, but it was certainly my awareness of Bitcoin was there. But yeah, I was building websites, man, and just like Googling how to do everything, which I still pretty much do with everything I do. So that's it. That's 2012.
That's awesome. So at what point did you start trading? Because I mean, I came into this space in end of 2020. And so like that, my introduction was like through Bitcoin, through Ethereum, and then I just fell in love with NFTs. But I felt like, I mean, you already had like a big following by the time I was starting to pay attention to things, and you've been trading. It felt like you've been trading forever. So at what point did you start trading and like just get deep into that side of things?
Yeah, getting deep into trading really was with crypto, even though I'd been investing and even like I would say swing trading as a kid. So like going even before. So going back to, I'm going to age myself here. You know, I remember Google going public, for example. And
Wow.
I thought like, I think it was $88 a share for their IPO. And I was like, I don't know, it seems expensive for a company that doesn't make anything. But I just remember that moment. I was already interested in the stock market and trading, and you know, my parents had gotten me interested in it purely not from a professional standpoint. They didn't do anything in finance, but you know, teaching me about saving for retirement and the importance of that kind of stuff. So I remember looking at like Yahoo Finance charts with my dad, trying to like stock pick and looking at like analyst ratings and stuff to filter down what I might want to buy. And I legit remember making small trades in, you know, random stocks, some of the same names as now, like Netflix when it was only DVDs, you know,
Oh yeah.
or I remember like some of the retail names like Party City around back then. I remember I bought Party City at one time way back when it was a value stock, and you know, now it's bankrupt. But yeah, so trading long ago, but uh, the technical component of it was mostly like looking at charts, and I knew what Bollinger Bands were, for instance. So when we had
Mhm.
John Bollinger on Up Only, I was like super pumped. I was like, man, I've been looking at Bollinger Bands since I was in high school. And um, then crypto just moved so fast that when I finally did get interested in crypto, I was like, man, this stuff charting this is something else because it really matters. And these things move and they chart really organically. Because I don't know, not as many people. So it's more psychology playing out on the chart. And
Yeah.
so that stuff's cleaner than things where literally everybody's looking at it, you know. So I started charting stuff, and you know, it's not like it was uncommon. Most people that were active participants in the ecosystem were charting stuff, but yeah, I picked up some of those old tools from a decade prior and was like, I need it here because the momentum is so fast. So that was 2017, and then I didn't create my actual crypto Twitter account until later in 2017, but I had already been, you know, following people and getting to know some people, but like I was more on the periphery of the ecosystem, and then I created my own crypto Twitter because I was clogging up my other Twitter following
Yeah.
crypto stuff. And so that's when I would say like I entered the ecosystem and I kind of became a reply guy. You know, I just was like, hey, you know, Not So Fast was one of the people that shared my stuff early on. And I would like reply to something that Not So Fast was talking about with a chart or whatever. And, you know, so as people kind of looked at me as a, you know, a new TA person, I guess. And that's fine. So yeah, you know, I still trade quite technically. It's not like that's necessarily what's going to make me want to invest in something, but it certainly will impact, you know, my entries and my exits and things like that. So always kind of had that TA hat on in a crypto sense.
So moving to like now, how are you? I guess, and over this last cycle, right? How have you kind of because it seems like you position yourself really well. You've done really well from a trader and an investment standpoint. How do you feel like the best way for you anyway has been to, you know, actually earn money? Was it just like the long buy and holds, or did you do a lot of short term trading? And what are you kind of doing now?
Yeah, I think I probably overtraded a lot early on. When you look at the ones that make the difference, sometimes it's really fast and sometimes it's just being there, waiting for the time that's right.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a bit of a blend, you know, because what you notice is sometimes you're like, oh, now that I made a lot of money on this, I see how it's the future and I'm going to hold it forever. and then
That
you,
was my mistake this whole cycle. Yep.
yeah, and then you round trip it, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of being there for when kind of everything lifts, but there really is potential alpha if you're able to dig in and find the stuff that is doing well when other things aren't doing well. So there's some examples that I didn't really participate in much, but that's where Chainlink and synthetics and stuff like that rose up in the bear market after 2017. So 2018, 2019, some of these DeFi primitives, ETHLend became Aave. some of these DeFi primitives were being established back then, and they were acting differently. And people who were really deep in the know understood what they were doing and building. But there's stuff like that happening right now. I'm sure. I'm not sure that I'm aware of exactly what those things are. Or can tell you the best ones. Partly because the venture ecosystem is so much more mature now. So a lot of things that are good tech and good ideas, they're not like desperate for any kind of money or liquid really early. They're like well funded, and they're not on a public market as a token until much later. So I think it does kind of rob retail investors of some of the opportunities there. But there's still sectors, things that are going to stand out, that are going to be being built right now during the bear market, that are going to really show up and rise to the top in the future. I would say for me, I've tried to protect my downside over the years as much as possible. So by not being, I mean, I've taken some hits, don't get me wrong, but by not being knocked out of the game, I've been able to do okay. And when everything sometimes has gotten good enough, like, and I'm really kind of in awe of the, you know, unrealized gains, it's usually a sign that it's like I should turn those unrealized gains into realized gains. And that's where I did not make that mistake this time around. Is I tried to realize some of those gains and take some chips off the table, because if you've been dealt a winning hand, but you don't actually take the chips off the table, you just roll them all back, then you're still subject to the game itself, and you don't know if it's going to go as well for you on the next hand.
Yeah, and that's how I feel from the last cycle. I had a winning hand and I gave it all back. I feel like you kind of got like everyone's first cycle. It feels like that's just what happens, and I'm hopeful that I've learned my lesson for the next one. That's for sure. But I mean, I'd love to get into like we happen to be talking at a very interesting time in the world. And in macro events, like so today is March 16th, 2023, and like banks are going under and getting loans and getting bailed out again.
Yeah.
How do you view like what's happening now from a macro perspective? Does that influence a lot of your decision making in crypto? And yeah, like what's your state of affairs on the current macro environment?
I guess it does, even though it probably shouldn't, beyond a certain extent. Like maybe it should kind of guide your sales a bit, but not necessarily like fully steer the ship, you know?
Mm.
And Dan Maniszewski has said this a lot over the years of like, macro doomers are definitely going to do their best to get you out of your positions, is kind of the summary of the way he puts things. And I think that that's very true. Like there's macro doomers all the time, no matter what market it is. So you can have a lot of these macro headwinds, but the difference when it's that you really feel it is because they're actually also making the greater impact on the market. The market's not absorbing them. So the way the market absorbs that information is more interesting than the information itself, because it almost seems like there's always bad news or bad macro news that someone can point at, whether it's yield curve inversions or bank failures or liquidity failures or pandemics or whatever else. But the results are not always exactly what you would anticipate, right? Like COVID, I wrote a blog post years and years ago where I was talking to the industry that I was in, the web industry. And I've said that I was hopeful it would be like kind of a rubber band recession, like a really quick snap back with the shutdown and everything, and then rebound quickly. And that was probably one of the better things I was able to understand at the time, and got lucky with that. It wasn't more prolonged. The pandemic was prolonged, but the impact on the economy and the impact on the way it impacted markets was not prolonged, because everything went up only after that, because the money printers turned on,
Yeah.
So even if you're right on, okay, something really bad is happening in the world, doesn't mean you're right on duration, or you're right on what the world's response is going to be, or what central government's responses are going to be. So I think you have to be fluid in terms of what is the thing that's happening, and then how am I going to respond to it. And I think one of the things that you can use to help is like, as you see the way the market absorbs that information starts to change, what does that mean? And I think we're seeing that a bit right now. Like banks are failing and we're not going to zero,
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. It's almost like people might think like, is there, better money out there right now? Because the money that I have available to me is not great. And right now that's probably mostly insiders who are like, well, I'm not going out to the bank. I'm going to stay right here in my happy place in crypto, but I might not want stables right now. Like there's all kinds of interesting dynamics. And what we're seeing currently is kind of the dominance play of like Ethereum and Bitcoin are doing pretty well, but it's not necessarily going down the long tail of assets. And those are the types of things that I want to be able to look at in the market, try to distill to some degree. I'm not going to be perfect at it, but I can try. So that's, I don't know, that's kind of my brainstorming of how I try to look at it.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. I love the way that you kind of framed it as well of, how is the market actually reacting to it versus what's going on in the macro environment. I think that tells a lot. What's your view on, just I get obsessed with this, the idea of cycles because I really hope that the cycles don't end because I'm like relying that there's going to be another bull market. What's your view on like where we are right now? Like, I feel like we're kind of right in the middle of a bear. But if someone was like, hey, you got to put money on the line here. When's the next bull market? How deep are we into the bear? What would your response be?
Um, I think we may have seen the bottom, but I think the sideways might take longer than people anticipate. Because one constant is people think that there's another bull market. So like, how long does it take to like reduce the number of people that believe that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Slowly whittling away.
yeah, and that's really a sad way to think about things, but in most markets, by the time something becomes a certainty, it's a good time to start thinking like maybe it should be less certain in our minds. And what people have done in the past is essentially said, okay, bull markets are associated to halvings in Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
And that's why there's been this 4-year cycle multiple times in a row. So the question this time is it going to look exactly the same? And I think my answer is I don't actually know that I would say it's going to look exactly the same, but it'll probably rhyme, right? Like
Yeah.
I would expect that if we haven't already seen the bottom, which I think we probably have, then we'll see the bottom at least before the halving. One of the big differences though is the like Bitcoin market's not the only market out there right now. And a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, I'm so happy my bags are, going to go up." And I wonder, could Bitcoin go up or but not your bags? You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Could like the dominance trade has not really punished those of us with altcoins or JPEGs or whatever else in a long time. Like late 2020, as the bull market was really kicking off, it started with a really big dominance run from Bitcoin.
Yeah.
After DeFi summer, so DeFi summer was like this bull market canary in the coal mine, kind of inverse canary, I guess. And it was like DeFi summer was just, popped off and people made a lot of money during it. And they bought Bitcoin and Bitcoin tripled in price over the end of 2020. A lot of people were not big believers in the bull market yet. They were like, "Oh, this rally will fail." Like,
The disbelief rally in the chart. Yeah.
yeah. And like until it breaks the all-time high, they weren't really believers. So they kind of missed everything from 4 to 6K whatever price that they had probably capitulated previously at, and then like all the way until that all-time high. Maybe they bought the all-time high breakout. Maybe they didn't believe until Bitcoin was 30K. Maybe they like only got into altcoins after that. I have no idea what they did. But eventually, obviously, everyone was in because the whole market was going crazy. And what we saw then is Bitcoin only had a 2x to go from there, even though there was this massive inflation still to occur in the market broadly as money floods into the ecosystem. And it's like, okay, well, I've missed it with Bitcoin. Bitcoin just went from a low of 3K to 69K. And like you see the whole cycle of alts go again. And this, I believe, will occur again. I just don't know what from what price and for which coins or asset classes. So like I believe that NFTs are a big part of the future. I'm not sure that that means like Bored Apes are gonna, you know, go from 70 ETH to 700 ETH floor. You know, like, I'm not sure that I would say that. I'm not sure that it will be the same NFT projects or even the same style of NFT projects. I'm not sure that it'll be the same layer one trades or altcoin trades as last time. We saw pretty definitively most of the stuff from 2017 did not really grow in the 2021 market. Some of it kind of got back to where it was. But if you look at EOS or Ripple or Stellar or some of these things, like a lot of that stuff didn't do that well relative to its prior all-time highs. Now, from its bear market bottom, it went down 99% in the bear market, maybe 100x to get back to where it was. But I don't know how many of them really had growth for all those people that waited and waited and waited for the future with their bags. So
Yeah, I mean, and it's
adaptability to what's the next cycle and what the next cycle has in store for you to be adaptable to that is very important.
yeah, I really like those thoughts. One last question I have before we dive headlong into NFTs is, what are your thoughts on good old ETH? Because I just fell in love with Ethereum as I kind of got deeper into the space, and obviously I feel like NFTs are the best thing to happen to this space in a long time. Sorry, Kobe, but it's just, it's exciting. I love it. Um, what what do you think on, we've had the triple, what they call the triple halvening or whatever, with all the burning and all this stuff. Do you feel like there's a scenario where ETH really does kind of, like there will be more supply shock or whatever, or that will impact the market like a Bitcoin halvening does? Because if I think about it, I'm like, okay, ETH is half the size or a little under half the size market cap wise of Bitcoin. And if it just went through, like, effectively, it's going to go through this super reduction in kind of the new supply. Uh, do you feel like that has had or will have any impact on the market?
Um, I think that we are seeing it in action right now, for one thing. Like, there's not really been new supply going into the market. I think it's been like close to deflationary, if not deflationary,
Yeah.
since all the burn mechanisms kicked in, the ultrasound money meme kicked in. The thing that we're also seeing is that there is a demand for Ethereum block space, but people are also not afraid to spend their Ethereum in order to use that block space. And that's kind of an interesting and powerful dynamic. And I'm spoiler, I'm a pretty big believer in Ethereum and believer in Ethereum as both a security layer and also having massive network effects for developer ecosystems and stuff. And I think the unknown there is exactly what does it look like as layer twos that are EVM compatible. Like we just saw Arbitrum token launching today, but Arbitrum, Optimism, various ZK options, ZK sync options are launching layer twos using that underlying ETH security model. But all of them take that activity and they enable more affordable activity there, and then they roll them back up to ETH layer one. So my thesis is actually that layer one is still going to be used massively, even though there is easier and better places to transact affordably on layer two. But I think it ends up lifting the tide for Ethereum layer one as well, because Ethereum layer one is what's really establishing the network effect and kind of the general power of the ecosystem in the first place. So I think Ethereum can do really well. There may be some shocks with, the unlock as the merge happens and, all other things that people want to complain about or get worried about. But I think that overall, I'm very bullish Ethereum, certainly relative to like alternative layer ones, the most in terms of relative to Bitcoin or relative to, some other down the line plays that you can make. I'm not quite sure. But I'm quite bullish on the Ethereum ecosystem relative to other layer one ecosystems, because I think we've seen product market fit and a demand for Ethereum block space.
That's a very nice, very diplomatic answer. Well done. No, but that makes sense. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I would agree. Like, I mean, I'm hopeful because I'm heavily overexposed. I think my portfolio is like 90% exposed to ETH in one way or another, because I mostly just love NFTs. I own a little bit of Bitcoin just because it feels like I should, but man, I love ETH so much more. It's you know, it's hard, but there's a lot going on in the space. So I want to transition over to NFTs. Like, when did you start, like, you started getting, you know, those honorary NFTs, people started making them for you back in the good old days, you know, remember those good old days? The do you feel like was it around that time that you were like getting excited about NFTs, or did it take you a little while to warm up to the idea?
Uh, it took me a while. I mean, I think I liked NFTs before like Bored Apes came out, for example. And I had a Bored Ape honorary and didn't know it. And then,
I remember that story. That was
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
You got some flack for it, but dude, good on you, you know?
I actually, yeah, the person that gave me that flack actually recently apologized, so that was very nice of them. And we,
Oh, that's great. I can't remember who the beef was with, but yeah,
it
they were
was,
like, people were calling you out.
was Tropo Farmer mostly. He was
Oh,
a,
it was a tropo.
yeah, he was a Bored Ape maxi, and he was mad at me for selling a honorary. And then later, very recently, like we were on a space together, and he apologized. And you know, when people are all in on an ecosystem like that, and then they see massive gains, and they see someone sell something where they didn't see them like evangelizing the ecosystem as much and all that, they can get upset sometimes. Who was it? Icebergy recently sold an honorary for quite a lot of money. And a bunch of people in that community got mad at him. And it's like, look, if the ecosystem collection, they're making honoraries to add attention to themselves. So then if that honorary becomes something that someone else wants to buy, then it's fair game, in my opinion.
And it's also continued great marketing. It really is. You
It
know,
is,
it's just more eyes on the ecosystem, right?
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I got interested in NFTs because I was seeing so many people get drawn on chain, and I was already all in on chain ETH with DeFi stuff. And so then when um the market was like, oh yeah, there's this other stuff on chain, not just DeFi. Like, do you remember CryptoKitties and Punks and some other stuff back in from 2017? And Ether Rocks, you know, was kind of the
Yeah.
pinnacle of like old JPEGs. Let's moon the old JPEGs. And so as the new stuff, people were like, yeah, we have this ERC 721 spec, and let's make some NFTs. I was very interested in that. I think ENS has always been one of the most interesting NFTs for me, just because it's this inherent utility in an NFT that has nothing to do with art or JPEG or, you know, building a gaming studio or whatever else kind of utility people have to create. But I was also very interested in stuff as it was going. And to be completely honest, like a lot of that is I'm glad that other people find this valuable, because therefore, like, they will find it valuable if I got it for cheaper and I can sell it to them. And I may like some things, but it doesn't necessarily mean I am as big of a believer in like the full bubble potential that we saw in NFTs. And so, like, kind of a bring it back down to reality is possible. But also, sometimes it's like it never comes back down. You know, like you look at the price of a Fidenza, for example. It's not like the floor crashed. It's still 70, 80, 90 ETH to get a Fidenza, even if at one point it was, you know, 200 or something.
200, yeah.
And so I think you see where some stuff really rose in prominence and is going to be expensive for a really long time. And I think that is really cool. And then some stuff, like, well, actually the majority of stuff, because we digest a lot of information for Flip, and like the majority of stuff is basically spam on a blockchain, and it's people that want to strike gold, but then then all of a sudden something does click, and you don't know necessarily what that's going to be. So recently, like, checks clicked for Jack Butcher's project, and I think that is really cool. That it doesn't really matter when it is, but sometimes even when you don't expect it, something can pop off and do really well because it's a novel idea. And I think if you're seeking out people who are doing things that are novel ideas and then good execution, then I think we'll continue to have a lot of excitement with NFTs, and it'll be a space that I certainly will continue to pay attention to. If you're just constantly trying to find the next Me Too project, like, I'm going to try to do everything Yuga's doing, but I'm going to try to do it for cheaper, then most, like 99.9% of those are going to fail.
Yeah, I love that insight. It's been and that was actually kind of one of my main reasons why I was excited to stick around during this bear market, because NFTs are still exciting. Like there's still a lot happening and a lot more going on. And I kind of left the ETH DeFi world, through which I entered, and I've just fully just embraced the NFT space because it's more exciting for me. But I do feel like there's going to be continual opportunity, even through a bear market, right? And we've seen it. The opportunities aren't as bountiful as they once were, but I still think there will be. So I mean, we've kind of seen I think it's been basically, the full first cycle for NFTs. How do you view it? Do you think that NFTs are going to follow a cycle again, like crypto will? Or do you think like, hey, that was a one-time bubble. Good luck for anything getting back to those levels. What are your thoughts on like the future of the whole space?
Yeah, I think there's plenty to learn from what we've been talking about with other assets. I think that some stuff will retain its value in a relative sense. Some stuff will have a whole new cycle that'll be really good. And then some stuff's never going to come back, no matter how much you try to will it. And there's nothing I can do about that. But I'm simultaneously a believer in NFTs as concept, like a non-fungible token, and what you can do with it. I believe that NFTs found product market fit in kind of multiple ways within one general industry, which is if you just try to throw a label on it, maybe we call it digital art, but that's digital art. It could be generative art. It could be one-of-one art. It could be a distribution mechanism for people's photography, which is obviously a form of original digital art. And PFPs as kind of like a subset, but a gigantic subset of that, which was a little bit like crypto native as well, because as a concept, that's a little stranger relative to like other types of art. But NFTs found product market fit there. And I think the next cycle, if you want to do that, like if we have to be cyclical about it, then the next cycle is that NFTs find product market fit in a multitude of other arenas. And it gets like way harder to follow because it's all these people in all these industries figuring out, hey, this is cool. This is getting us interested in putting something on a blockchain, which is a promise that we've had forever. And now I see a path to actually achieving it. And that is really cool. And I think we're going to find that. And I think there's going to be some absolutely amazing investment opportunities out of it.
Oh, I love to hear it. Getting me excited for whenever the next whenever that next run may be. What do you personally? I haven't stalked your wallet or anything, so I should have, but what do you kind of like? What interests you personally from a NFTs perspective? Do you own some generative art, some digital art? I know you're down bad on those Avid lines.
I love
Rest in
Avid
peace.
lines.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down bad. I was down bad on basically everything, other than I bought a ringer for 4 ETH, and that was like my one saving grace. And then it just hurt my soul when you're looking at it on Up Only with Kobe, and he just looked at those things with disgust, and it hurt my feelings because I love Kobe so much, and I felt like I was being personally attacked. But he was just being. I'm just going to pretend like he just didn't want to take the time to truly appreciate the ringer. But that all long-winded question to say, what do you personally enjoy?
I would never say that Kobe hasn't done something, because I don't know what he's done under some pseudonym or anonymous way that I don't know anything about. But in terms of publicly, I think just because Kobe says like he doesn't like your JPEGs doesn't mean your JPEGs can't work, because Kobe did not do near as well with JPEGs as many other people. And yeah, so you don't have to worry about what Kobe says about that.
We had a good I think one of my favorite replies once was when he called them altcoins or crap coins or something with pictures. Yeah, and then I like responded, and I was like, oh, this hurts, and then Punk 6529 was like, yeah, they're altcoins with pictures, you know? And I was like, yeah, they are. This is great. And I did the Drake meme and Kobe retweeted it. He loved it.
Nice.
Because, you know, it's all in
Yeah,
the wording, you know?
yeah, it is. And I actually don't think that's the best future for NFTs as being altcoins with JPEGs. But you know, to me, being able to specify this NFT, whereas altcoins with pictures to me is more like interchangeable parts. You know, it may have like they're all the same SKU, if you will, and then every single one of them underneath is the same. And the
Yeah.
best you can do is kind of know like, okay, well, here's the manufactured date, but really that one or that one, that one, that one, it's all the same. I think the coolest future for NFTs is where, sure, there's this meta information that is shared, but like it's that one. Like I live in my house, not someone else's house. It doesn't matter that these two houses are on the same street. It's mine. Like I gain utility and function out of the fact that it's mine versus someone else. It's more than just, okay, this is an investment. My house is also an investment because it ends up being an asset that I pay off over time and, you know, I have equity or something in it. But that is different than the utility I inherently get out of it. And I think it's great if we can think of NFTs in the sense of I get something from this specific asset. And so that's why I mentioned ENS. I love ENS. And if I was to say like one thing that I'm really bullish on, I think that the NFT market is massively sleeping on the value of like actual scarce ENS names. So not just numbers, but you know, you could look at like the 999 club or the 10K club. But I also would look at like valuable words, names, things like that. So when we did our ENS support for Flip, you know, I wanted sports teams and dictionary words and first names and last names and things like that because I think those are really valuable the same way they are in a domain name landscape. Except for this time now, you don't just say like, "Hey, go here to this website." It's pay me. It's you know, here's my digital identity. Like that's in my mind. There's some people sleeping on that as a concept, and I think it's pretty cool. Um, I also, I mean, I love some of the art. I think some of the generative art certainly has a chance to come back. Some of the stuff that got beat up, but for the most part, I think art specific stuff, the market really doesn't understand yet how to value it. And same with PFPs. Like the value is probably going to end up coming more from the network effects versus like how hard was this to create or how pretty is this, you know, because human beings make beautiful stuff all the time. That something being beautiful does not necessarily translate to something being worth a lot in a speculative market. What creates something that's worth a lot has tended to be because there's also like a story attached. It's a savant created it. It could be their worst sketch, but a savant created it. And now it's old and now they're dead and there's only 100 of them, you know, like creates scarcity, creates this additional value. Like if you have Vincent van Gogh's, I don't know, dresser, it's probably really valuable because it was his. You know what I mean? Like it's not just his art, it's the fact of who he is. The network effect is from his name and reputation and how it carries for centuries, not just in the fact that his art is unbelievable. Of course, like his art is unbelievable and that will have some of its own inherent value. But I don't know how we're going to do that with NFTs. Is it going to be like which NFTs have been around the longest, no matter how ugly they are? Is it going to be like which NFTs have like this hyper successful game or brand that backs them or something like that? I don't know. And it's hard for me to say exactly what I think, you know, will just moon because of that. I wish I knew because I would go buy them. I do think that we have some really valuable brands in NFTs and we'll see some of those figure out how to capture long-term value really well. I think Yuga's a good example, right? Like, I mean, they are just a behemoth and they're going to carry value. I think some of the more like cult-like collections, like, you know, Pudgy Penguins or something, also carry value. I think Art Blocks carries a ton of value as a brand.
Yep.
How that translates to like what does their distribution mechanism look like, and how do they onboard artists, and how much art is there, and how much is that art worth? No idea. But will there be some stuff with art blocks in the name that ends up really, really valuable for a long time to come? Absolutely. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, I that makes me feel good. You know, I'm a big art blocks guy. Yeah, I
Me too. I bought
definitely.
the top, man.
What's that?
I bought the top, so me too.
Yeah.
But I'm
I
also
mean,
a big fan. Like I mean, I don't mind bag holding something so bad if I really love it.
yeah, and and for me at least, it tends to be a little easier with art than like a PFP for me because
Yeah.
I liked it in the first place and I didn't expect it to do anything else. And I recently like basically sold a bunch of stuff just so I could buy one squiggle because I was like, that's like the grail. And so if I gotta own, like the you're talking about art blocks as a brand, I view the squiggle as the logo and kind of excited about the potential there. But I mean, who knows? I'm already down an ETH and a half since my buy. So
Man, I think that's a great point though, because I had a great squig and I actually let it go. And it wasn't because I didn't love it. It was just because I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this price is a good price or a bad price, but it's liquid and I can have whatever 15 ETH back in my pocket. So I did. Um, I'll never get that squiggle back, right? Like it's one of 10K. It was a great one.
uh,
I loved it. It wasn't like a hyper rainbow or something like truly rare. It was like floor plus a little kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's just
But aesthetically
aesthetically
nice.
pleasing
Yeah.
squig. And like that might be hard for me to get in the future, right? Like by the time I believe the floor is 11 ETH right now, but it's four items away from a 13 ETH floor. So, whatever. Um, it might take a while or it might be hard. I might have to pay up to get like an aesthetically pleasing squiggle in the future. And who knows what the ETH actually costs. So it's like, will I ever be able to tell myself again, yeah, I'm going to spend like $40,000 on a squiggle because I think it's going to 20x or like be worth 100 ETH, which then would be more than a 20x because I'm very bullish on ETH. That might not happen. And I might just have to live with the fact that like, hey, squiggles are $1 million a piece now. And I had one. In fact, I had two and oops.
I did the same thing. I paper handed one, but I don't know if you noticed this, but I think it was last year, almost all of last year. I feel like squiggles were like just stuck in a range, and they're kind of still back like stuck in that range, but they were really stuck in a range.
Like
And every time they would rip, every time they would start to rip, there would be this massive sell off. And I felt like there was like some whales kind of just that owned a ton that just kept selling hard into every pump because there's such a concentrated, unique ownership. And it basically washed me out. I was like, I think I can do better with my investment if I just buy something else. And then, so I bought my squiggle for like 7 ETH and I sold it for like 7 ETH a year later. And then, recently bought it again for almost double the price because I was like, I just have to have one. But like I'm still a little weary because it feels like there's still some real whales in that collection.
Yeah, there are. There's some pretty powerful holders. The top squiggle holder has 1,000, but that might be like some other thing. I'm looking at.
No, I think that might be right. That's kind of crazy.
It might
That
be
like
a real.
owns 10% of the supply.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
sometimes it's like a vault or a team or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same as someone liquid, but the bigger point is you can go down 10, 12 spaces with people that have 100 plus. So, there's a lot of squiggles in those hands. And yeah, it's most of them are not for sale, but like I'm looking at one. Flip calls them friendly hedgehog. They own 248 squiggles. They minted 205, and they haven't actually sold any. But here's a good one. This person minted 200, owns 97, and sold 101. So they've sold half of the 200 that they sold, that they owned initially. They probably made a lot of money on those because they minted them, and that's now just like they got another 100 they can dump on your face. And that supply, that can happen in anything, any collection, any asset. So I don't know. It's something to think about, but I don't know if it's like, I don't know if I'd be so severe about it to say like, oh, there's the squiggle cabal that's going to dump on me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it feels a lot more bullish now, I would say. Like there's DAOs, right, that have formed. It's like the Squiggle DAO, I think. Like they've got a goal for owning like hundreds or even more. And so you've got people that really do want to accumulate, which I think is interesting. And so you obviously are bullish enough on NFTs that you started Flip and decided like, hey, we're gonna build some tools around it.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Flip, like why you decided to do it, and then like how. I mean, I guess I'm actually somehow logged in, so I must have created a wallet at one point, which is
Yeah.
great.
You might be your wallet's probably connected, or you might have multi-wallet. So if you unshare and look back, make sure you're not doxing yourself.
Yeah, no, this is just my hot wallet, I think, which has a bunch of garbage in it, you know, and some other stuff. So
Yeah.
not overly concerned, but
Yeah, so if you click portfolio, you'll see if it's only the one wallet connected on the, or just to the right of your name up there.
oh yeah, right here.
Yeah, click the
Boom.
bag. There you go.
Summary. Let's see.
Yeah,
This is my
this is your
my
one.
yeah, this is my hot wallet here.
Yeah, so that'll load in. But I was just curious. You're the first person that's pulled this up while we were doing a show. So it makes me a little nervous. It's almost like a user experience.
Yeah, is this gonna work? Yeah. Well, you can see my portfolio going bananas for a couple of minutes, and then you know, I got right around here is when one of my friends got hacked for like 7 figures, and then I moved things to a cold storage wallet. And then I also just lost everything as well because I just bag held everything through the cycle.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it looks like the latest stability though, but never mind. Yeah, we built Flip, and we've tried to build a whole bunch of cool stuff for people to help them explore the market. And we really see this in 3 phases. We see the exploration side of the market, kind of the discovery, and then we see like the execution process, so like actually shopping for and purchasing NFTs, and then the tracking side of the market, which you saw one side of that just now with portfolio, but there's also the feed up there as well, based on like which collections, assets, and wallets that you follow. And yeah, so we're super bullish on NFTs and think that it's a big part of the future, and think that ETH layer 1 is the primary landscape for it. So that's where we're focused. And yeah, we're having fun. So it's been a journey, man.
That's crazy. So you've got you can follow. You say you can follow wallets on here as well. You can track.
Yeah, you can type in like LedgerStatus.eth or something up there in the top search bar, and then you'll see like my hot wallet, and then there I am. So now you can click on the right. There's a little star, and that'll allow you to set notifications, and those will go in your feed. So click next to the little bell now up there. Sorry, if anybody's on audio, I apologize. Oh, you disabled it. Click the arrow next to it.
Oh, there we go.
The other one.
Boom. Yeah, we're just navigating on Flip's website, Flip.xyz, for those that are just listening.
Yeah, looking through what you can do. So now via either the desktop or the mobile app, you can get notifications of when I list something, or when I transfer something, a daily summary if it's something that's like really, really active and you don't want to get all that information. So we generate those notifications for you based on the stuff that you care about. So
I like that.
Thank you. I wanted to build some of this because I needed it, right? Like, so I get mobile notifications of all the stuff that I follow. And I find that really valuable because I want to know what's going on with these collections. Is one of my friends like aping into something? Are they listing their squiggle for sale? Like what you said earlier, like, and I can go make fun of them for being paper handed. Notifications of, have I had an item that that sold that I had listed? Did my listing expire? There's all kinds of stuff that you can do there, and we wanted to build the tools that enable that to happen. So yeah, it's I love the kind of peer-to-peer portion. We have something coming out maybe today, maybe tomorrow, that is enabling some Flip native transactions, which is going to be really cool. That's going to be a furtherance of that. But yeah, we really just want to enable a great NFT experience, and we also are trying to make this structured in a way to where you as an investor or a community member can do all this cool stuff and follow things. You see my Moonbirds thing there. The other thing we're trying to do is really support some of these creator communities. So you can see I paid no royalties on that Moonbirds purchase, but that was not actually by design. I paid no royalties because the seller chose to to utilize no royalty when they sold it. And what we want to do is provide information for creators and also for community members to say, hey, you ended up not paying royalties on this because that's what the landscape provided. What if you want to go pay that royalty after the fact? Or what if that community wanted to royalty gate their Discord or royalty gate their next airdrop or something like that? We're actually creating the tools that enables that power for the community to decide for themselves, but we're providing the information at the asset level and available to those communities to do stuff with. You can see where I'm massively down bad on those matchbooks right now.
Yeah.
I hated him because my friend was like talking about him, and he had just done really, really well on checks, and I was like, "All right, CK, I'm trailing you on this," and he was like, "Thanks, you just bought my 10x."
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thanks for being my exit liquidity.
He literally tweeted that at me.
Yeah, I see you're still holding on to these me bits. Good for
Yeah,
you. We've had.
yeah, those are actually newer ones, not older
Oh,
ones.
so you're getting back in. Okay, I like it.
I got back in, and I actually ended up buying flagged assets, which was an accident. But you can see that they've got the little thing on there now. But yeah, so that's an interesting one too. When depending on the exchange, only certain places list stuff as flagged. Like I said, we just want to provide as much accurate information as we can for people out there. And yeah, so we're not going anywhere specific here, but we've been building Flip for a while, and we're going to keep building, and we think it can be really valuable for people.
That's cool. This is a great. Yeah, this is like those, the classic charts here. This is fun to look at. I should just be using this product more in general. I'm always like wanting the data, and then I feel like for the last year, everything's been in beta, so I just have never like figured out which platform actually can just handle everything. And I think we're getting closer in general with a lot
We
of tools. So
we can handle almost all the things that you want to do.
love to
That's
hear it.
Yeah, there might be some stuff that, I mean, depending on what your NFT experience is like, but we think that we're pulling, some of the best stuff that you get from different aggregators, different exchanges, and research platforms, and piling them into kind of a singular view. So, like if you click into Zuki or something like that, you can see more of the collection side of things, and then click up in the image or that browse Zuki bit, and you can
That's great.
really get a lot of more detailed chart information, see the current order book summary. Then you go explore all kinds of stuff, whether you want to look at more in-depth charts on the top right, or if you want to explore and like go find your perfect trade, or all kinds of stuff that you can do from here. We just wanted to make it as good of an experience as possible for both the shopper and then also really people shopping for a specific NFT, not necessarily just someone that's trading at the margins at the floor. Although we do have sweeping from these open order books. We curate OpenSea, LooksRare, and X2Y2, which are the public order books that are some of the largest that at least have open APIs. And not everybody out there has an open API that they're willing to share.
Hello, Blur. Hello, Blur.
Yeah, I've asked a lot. But yeah, it's fun. And I think at least I'm a pretty active participant in the NFT market. And for me, I can do almost everything that I want to do in the NFT landscape through Flip.
I love it. It's funny. Like, I think honestly, the last time that I logged in was just like, probably your day 1 or day 10, like after
Yeah.
launch. And so you just had like a couple features and you've gone a long way from there. And I love to see that you're still building. So look at this. You even got a ace in the chat, even a fan. So look at that. You got one fan there that's a fan of Flip.xyz. They do want to know, is there alpha on the rewards tab? I haven't even seen it, but do we have any Is there a rewards tab up here that I
Yeah,
missed?
so if you click your name at the very top, and I really do apologize, go to settings. Apologize to audio only listeners. Rewards is basically enabling for uh, for platforms. It doesn't matter. You don't have to click it. For platforms that have rewards, we pass those rewards on to the user. So like Looks Rare currently example,
Oh, cool.
they have rewards that they provide people for making purchases and listings and stuff like that. So if Flip's contracts end up receiving those rewards, then we make those rewards available individually to the user. Um,
Got it.
that's what that
Got it.
means. Now, I would continue to keep track of like stuff that we're putting there in the settings section and some of the stuff that you can finagle, because we're always trying to add value for people. Um,
Oh, I
but
love to hear that. Just a sneaky little bit of alpha there. Just, continue to pay attention, continue to use the product kind of a thing. I definitely will start. That's been super interesting. Dude, this has been great. I really appreciate the time. We're running up to the hour here. So my last question to you is one that I love to ask everybody, and you're going to be very well equipped to answer, which is like, what advice would you give to, somebody that's just entering the space now, whether it's NFTs or crypto in general, or somebody that, like me, for example, that, had my first cycle under my belt and screwed it up, made a ton of money and lost it all. And I'm right back where I started, but I feel like I at least have gained a little bit of wisdom. What advice would you give to us out there trying to make it and stay involved?
yeah, so you are in great shape because you did all that, and now here you are, so much more informed and better prepared for hopefully another round of the whole shebang.
Yes, hopefully.
And um, I don't know very many people who just made a fortune the very first cycle and then stuck around for another one, right? Like some people maybe made a lot of money, got out, and then never touched it again. But I think people, when they make the most and do the best and get the most involved, they end up having their career in crypto, that kind of thing. It involves getting wrecked a little bit. Like that's part of the game. If you are in your shoes and somebody's down and it's harder to pay attention, you got to stay curious. You got to dig in, because if you're curious, if you dig in and you have an open mind, you're going to have opportunities in whatever kind of market. And it doesn't matter if it's an echo bubble, full on biggest mania ever, whatever, somewhere in between. You're going to have opportunities. If you're brand new, take it slow, but don't go in with nothing on the line. In my mind, I think it matters to have a little bit at stake. I like to tell people, not that it's financial advice, but like make it to where if you lost it, it feels like somebody punched you in the gut. Like it's not going to kill you. It's not going to wipe you out. You're not, in debt over it or something like that. But it feels like somebody really, really gave you a nice jab in the gut. And it doesn't feel good to have lost it, because then you got skin in the game. And if you got skin in the game, then you're going to pay attention. And if you're paying attention and you're digging in, you're going to create opportunity for yourself. And then try to learn from your elders, like learn from somebody like Node, if you're listening to this podcast, that has a whole cycle under his belt and is ready to like be prepared, and others that have been around and done it, and simultaneously learning from them without getting jaded by them, because a lot of people who've been around for a long time, they get jaded more and more over time, and they are further away from the beginner mindset, the curious mind, the like the just the sponge of a crypto student, like.
Yeah.
And I think if you try to keep that to where you're always curious and always learning, you could just stumble on something that changes everything and gives you tremendous opportunity. And like that, you go from I've been in this forever and never made anything to bam, I was on the forefront of something and I just made a ton, kind of all at once, if you will. And it didn't feel like all at once, but then it happened really fast. And a lot of people have had that happen. And I think it requires really paying attention.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, very similar. It feels like that's been a really good almost theme amongst most people that I end up doing the podcast with is just like keep learning and stick around. Like you gotta be around. And if I remember right, from the up onlys, you guys often say like survive, right? Survive and advance, and just find a way to do that and stick around. And that's certainly been the case for me. Like I've found a way to survive and advance a little bit, and found ways to stay involved in the community and in the industry, and actually working in the space has also been really fun for me. So
Awesome.
uh, Ledger, really appreciate it. Everyone go check him out. I mean, if you're following me, I'm sure you're following Ledger already on Twitter. I'll have the links down under the YouTube in the description. Anything else you want to shout out, Ledger? Anything coming up for Flip, or anything else that you want people to know?
I'm thankful that you had me, and thankful that people, if you made it this far, that you listened. If you listen this far, then I spend the vast majority of my time trying to make Flip awesome. So I hope you'll try it. All you have to do is go to Flip.xyz. Highly recommend that you do. We have some really cool stuff coming out. Connect your wallet, download the mobile app, dig in. I would really appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter at LedgerStatus. I'll be tweeting my bad takes, and then you'll be on the front lines for when we come out with new episodes of Up Only and whatnot. Up Only's not going away, so just keep on the lookout. And no, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I'll be looking forward to it. Maybe in 2024 we'll get the next episode of Up Only. I'm excited. We'll see. We'll see whenever that happens. I'll be looking forward to it. Thanks everyone. Another episode of Node Mode in the books, and we will chat with you next week.